What's up, everybody? Jared here with carbuzz.com, and if you've been in the market for a Mazda crossover, particularly a Mazda CX-50, but you just weren't happy enough with the fuel economy, I've got some good news. This is the 2025 Mazda CX-5, and for the first time ever, this model is now available as a hybrid. Now, this is actually not a Mazda hybrid system like the one that you find in the CX-90 and the CX-70. No, this is actually a borrowed system from Toyota. It's pretty much the same one that you're going to get in a Toyota RAV4. Now, this makes for a really interesting combination, a Toyota drivetrain with pretty much everything else from Mazda. And in this video, we're going to find out if this is the right combination for you. Now, if you're looking to stand out from people who just own the normal Mazda CX-50, you're probably not going to do that, although there are some changes here on the outside that are worth noting. The whole car is 1.3 inches higher. They had to do that to accommodate kind of like the battery packs. You can actually kind of see it kind of sagging down there a little bit, although ground clearance unfortunately has not been improved from that lift, which is a little bit weird in my personal opinion. I don't think white is the best color for the CX-50. They come in like a really cool brown. I believe that's one zircon sand, and Soul Red obviously looks great on these. White looks just fine to me. Definitely nothing special. 17-inch wheels are going to come standard, but on this Premium Plus model, you'll be able to upgrade to these 19-inch. They call them Aero wheels. These are specific to the hybrid, so you won't find those on any other Mazda CX-50. And then Mazda said they actually made the cladding a little bit thicker here on this hybrid model. Kind of hard to see. Visually, you'd probably have to have them next to each other. And then obviously clear as day, you've got the hybrid badge right here. Not too easy to miss there. We do also have some black mirrors. We've got some roof rails here. And then we are supposed to have some black tipped exhausts, although those look quite silver to me. And then here at the back, got our normal CX-50. It says all-wheel drive because all of the hybrids are going to be all-wheel drive. And then you do get another hybrid badge with some blue text here in the back of the CX-50. Now here in the interior, you're not going to notice too much different from a standard Mazda CX-50, although this is actually my first time doing a video with this CX-50, so I thought I'd show you a good amount of the cabin, although we probably won't spend that much time on it. You do get leather seats on this top Premium Plus model. There is a special red interior option that you can get on the hybrid only. Unfortunately, we don't have that, although I do really like this black combination with this nice kind of brown stitching. This is really premium for a mainstream brand. Your seating position is going to be a little bit higher as a result of the CX-50 hybrid being a little bit higher, but you'd really kind of have to drive them back to back to notice that. As we go ahead and start up the vehicle, you will notice that the gauge cluster here is going to be a little bit different than what you find on other CX-50s. You still have the speedometer there in the middle, sort of done digitally, but in a circle with some small screens around it. But then you have the power charge gauge. That is what you're going to see in a lot of Toyota products, although of course Mazda did it in its own way. So instead of a traditional tachometer, that is what you are going to get there. You can cycle through some information that displays there in the middle. And we do have the MI drive, which is a little bit different than you'll find on some other Mazdas. Instead of a sport mode, we now have a power mode. And then instead of an off-road mode, we have a trail mode. Those are going to change the speedometer just a little bit. You see you have that really interesting brown color, then it switches to white, and then you kind of have red. This actually looks kind of similar to what Toyota does in the RAV4. I don't think that that is a coincidence, but we do have some really nice materials here. We have some really nice leather steering wheel that feels really nice. We've got some nice leather here on the dashboard as well. We've got a 10.25-inch display that is not touch. It does not appear to work even in park. You control it down here using this BMW iDrive, but simplified style thing. Not my favorite, if I'm being honest. It works fine, but I'm not going to write home about it. We do at least have some nice physical controls. I don't know if I mentioned heated and ventilated seats, dual zone automatic climate control, cup holders with a little bit of storage in front of that. Your wireless charger is going to live back here. We do have an EV button. Don't get too excited about that. It only really works at very slow speeds. And we do have a Bose audio system here on this top Premium Plus hybrid trim level. But there are some things that we are missing from the Premium Plus version of the Turbo, that being a 360 camera. When you put it into reverse, you're just going to get a regular one. You also do not get parking sensors. And although Mazda's materials all mention a heated steering wheel, I believe this is where that button would be, and it clearly does not have that. We also notice a slightly different shifter from what you're going to get in a normal CX-50. This looks straight out of a Toyota if you've ever been in a Toyota product. So there are a few telltale signs that this is not your average Mazda CX-50 in here, but they are quite minimal at best. Now, as I was combing through the press materials for this car during my short loan with it, Mazda was pretty clear that the hybrid packaging didn't have any negative effects on practicality. It actually does. I'm not sure why their numbers don't say that, or why their materials don't say that. We have a little bit less legroom here than we would in the standard CX-50, about 2 inches. So we're at 37.9 here on the hybrid. I'm not saying it's tight, but it is 2 inches less than you're going to be getting in the regular CX-50. Just something to think about. We do at least have some nice air vents down here. We have USB-C ports as well. We've got a panoramic roof on this top model, and we do have a pretty decent armrest with some cup holders as well. So I'm not saying the back seat is bad by any respects, but just a little bit compromised compared to the gas-only CX-50. And it's a similar story here at the back. As we open up the power lift gate, you're going to notice that you're losing about 2 cubic feet of space. I'm not exactly sure where that's coming from. Maybe the floor is a little bit higher. So a little over 29 cubic feet. You get a little over 31 in the gas-only CX-50. And Mazda has not quoted how much space there is with the seats folded on the hybrid. It's about 56 cubic feet, a little over that on the regular CX-50. So I'm assuming this isn't too far off. I just can't give you the actual quote. You can fold the seats from over there in the back, or you do get these nice latches to just kind of pull down, and then those will drop as well. Unfortunately, this seat belt is being finicky. If I try that again, now it should go down super easily. I love that ability. A lot of SUVs don't do that. So this is still a very practical SUV, but it is worth noting that although Mazda says practicality is not compromised whatsoever by getting the hybrid, it is, if ever so slightly. All right, so let's get out on the road in the new Mazda CX-50 hybrid. And now this is a really interesting experience for me, because everything I see, from the steering wheel to the screen to the dash, is all Mazda, except for what's under the hood. So in terms of how the CX-50 drives, it's pretty good. This is actually my first time driving a CX-50, and compared to a Mazda CX-5, it is a little less sophisticated. We do have a torsion beam rear suspension at the back rather than an independent unit. But compared to something like a Toyota RAV4, which obviously that's relevant given the powertrain, this is a really nice handling crossover. I wouldn't say that the steering is fun, but it's pretty accurate. I do know what the front end is doing. It doesn't feel too light, nor does it feel too heavy. The suspension is a little on the firmer side. I think it's a little firmer than Toyota typically does with their suspensions. You know, Mazda does like to, fancy itself as kind of a sporty brand, although not so much recently. But as I'm tackling my usual sort of back roads here with the CX-50, I'm having a decent amount of fun. I don't even have to put the car into its power mode. We'll talk about that in just a minute. And yeah, I would say that this is a decently entertaining crossover to drive. Definitely not one of the sportiest on the market. Although I think if you are looking for that, you should probably get the CX-50 Turbo. That is more powerful than this. And that segues me into the powertrain here, which is, I think, the biggest story that we've got to talk about. This may be a 2.5-liter four-cylinder, but it is not the same 2.5-liter four-cylinder that you get in the regular CX-50, or in fact, pretty much every other Mazda. This is a Toyota engine, a Toyota hybrid system. If you've been shopping for Mazdas all this time, you might not be as familiar with it. Anybody who's owned a Toyota hybrid in the last 5 to 6 years knows this hybrid system. You've got 3 electric motors total, 2 at the front, 1 in the rear. That gives you an E all-wheel drive. It is not a connected all-wheel drive with a transfer case or a differential or anything like that. So there is just an electric motor at the back driving the rear wheels. All that is good for 219 horsepower total. They don't quote a total torque figure, but we do have 163 pound-feet coming from just the engine. So let's see how well that puts the power down, shall we? Pretty instant throttle response. Not a super fast 0 to 60 though. That was 7.97 seconds. So I think this is probably going to be a little quicker than the base CX-50, which has just a normally aspirated 4-cylinder with about 187 horsepower. It's not going to be as fast as the turbo, which has like 250 horsepower and like 320 pound-feet if you feed it premium gasoline. It's definitely not a fast crossover. You shouldn't be expecting that, but it is at least on par with the Toyota RAV4 hybrid. Maybe it's a little bit quicker because this is the exact same powertrain that you're going to be getting in a Toyota RAV4. And that's why it's a little bit weird, because most Mazdas, except for the CX-90 and the CX-70, use a 6-speed automatic transmission. This actually uses what they call an eCVT. It's a planetary gear set. They call it an eCVT because it basically functions like one. There aren't any physical gears that you have to row through, although it does have a manual mode. When you put your foot down, you're just going to get that kind of CVT noise that you would expect from, a normal CVT. That's why Toyota calls it that. The thing I am noticing, though, is I think the CX-50 it's a little firmer than the RAV4 for sure, but I do think it's a little bit quieter, both in terms of just ambient noise and in terms of how intrusive that engine is when it does finally kick on. The moments where the engine isn't running, you're coasting or you're rolling off the line at low speed, those are really peaceful. And if you learn how to drive this hybrid system properly, which I have a lot of experience, I've driven a lot of Toyota hybrid systems, you can get some really excellent fuel economy in this car if you're able to kind of ride the electric motor for as long as possible and you don't have too much of a heavy foot. In fact, Mazda is toting a 40% improvement and over 100 miles more of range compared to the gas-only non-turbo CX-50. We're talking 39 MPG in the city, 37 on the highway, and 38 combined. You should be able to get over 400 miles on a tank of gas in this vehicle. Now, the thing is, if you want to compare that to the RAV4 hybrid, if you're going to be cross-shopping that, you will do a little bit better in the RAV4. That'll get 41 in the city, that's 2 better, 38 on the highway, that's 1 better, and then 39 overall, so 1 MPG better. Not game-changing numbers for sure, but it's not surprising that the vehicle that this powertrain was engineered for does a little bit better than the one that was kind of stuck into it. But if you are just looking at you're sold on the Mazda CX-50, you do not want to cross-shop a RAV4, this hybrid is way more fuel efficient than the gas-only model. That model only gets 25 in the city, 31 on the highway, and 28 combined. So you're looking at like a 10 MPG improvement, and you're getting more power, and what I think is honestly a smoother, maybe a little less sporty, but definitely a smoother and a more powerful powertrain. So I think those are all really worthy trade-offs. If I were in the market for a CX-50, I think the hybrid would be the one I'm shopping for. It does miss a handful of features that the turbo gets, and it definitely doesn't have that performance. But if I'm just buying a crossover because I think it kind of looks cool, I just want the best fuel economy, and this hybrid, whether or not it's actually a Mazda system or not, is the best way to get that. And I think Toyota is really on to something here. I'd love to see them leverage out their hybrid system to a few more brands that could really use an MPG boost. Seeing this powertrain show up in another vehicle, because I do think that this interior is nicer overall than a RAV4. It feels more premium, even if the feature set is pretty similar. And I think not everybody likes the current Toyota kind of boxy, rugged, outdoorsy styling that Toyota is doing at the moment. So offering this powertrain in a completely different brand of vehicle is a really unique strategy. All right, so that's gonna wrap up our time with the 2025 Mazda CX-50 Hybrid. If you're interested in buying one of these, they should be on sale this November, so they should start showing up at dealerships now. They are rolling off the assembly line in Huntsville, Alabama, where they are built in a Mazda and Toyota joint factory. Mazda is really bullish on how many of these they're going to sell. They think that this is going to take the CX-50 up from about, I think it's like a 50,000 unit seller right now, up to over 100,000 units, with 40,000 of those units coming from this hybrid model. So again, really, really bullish on how this is going to affect sales. Now, in terms of pricing, a base Mazda CX-50, well, not a base one, but the preferred trim, which is where the CX-50 hybrid starts, is $31,650. So you're going to be paying about a $2,300 premium to get the hybrid. I think it's worth it for the extra power and the fuel economy. So you're looking at $33,970 for the preferred. If you want to step up to the premium, that's $37,400. That gets you roof rails, the black exhaust that isn't on this one, power passenger seat, 2-position memory, a dimming rearview mirror, traffic sign recognition, the Bose speaker system, and the panoramic roof. And then this premium plus is just over 40 grand for the 19-inch wheels, ventilated seats, heated steering wheel that isn't there, and the power mirrors. I think that's a really nice price to pay for a very well-equipped vehicle. A Toyota RAV4 can get up there as well. I do think this is better looking than a RAV4 and a little bit nicer. It is also a little bit firmer, so definitely something to consider there. But if you are in the market for a Mazda SUV and you want the most fuel-efficient one, it's going to be this, and I think a lot of people are really going to like it. As always, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos, and I'll see you next time.